Welcome to the Impactful Engineer Project. I'm Steve Maxey, and with my co-host and brother Jake, we are here to bring you guidance, fresh ideas, and the tools to help you become an impactful engineer. Most engineers don't fail because they lack technical skill. They fail because they never learn how to lead, communicate, and take ownership. This is the Impactful Engineer. We give you the blueprint for career excellence, not textbook answers. I'm Steve Maxey, a senior manager in product development, and I'm here with my brother Jake, owner and principal engineer at NLS Engineering. If you're done with the status quo and ready to take control of your career, then you're listening to the right show. Hello, Jacob.
Hello, sir.
How are you?
We have 3 episode types. Getting right into it.
Go.
One, Steve and I get on here. It's the most common episode type. We talk about stuff. Hopefully it's helpful. We think it will be. Take it and use it and be awesome. Second type is solo episodes. Either one of us gets on here, shares something that's close to us and we've seen that's helped us a lot. Hopefully it helps you. Third type is guest episodes. We bring somebody else on with their expertise to share that we think will help you as well in your career. So those are the 3 episode types. You're all caught up. Listen to lots of them.
Yes, all of them. and leave reviews.
I'm excited for today's topic.
All right, on today's topic. Yeah, so lately we've been focusing a lot on how to master being a individual contributor. We've been touching on a lot of leadership, teamwork type stuff, which is all very useful for a lot of our listeners. But something we haven't touched on in a while is for those folks that are either just graduated or just landed their very first job. Like they haven't even started. They just got hired and they just happen to be listening to this episode right now. Like those are the folks that we haven't really serviced recently. So I'd like to have a conversation about the first 90 days after you get your first job. Like, what the hell do you do, right? You went through all this school.
Besides freak out.
Yeah,
and worry.
you went through all this school. You landed your job. You did a great interview, and you start on Monday. What the hell do you do, right? So I wanted to break this down into kind of 3 chunks. So as a manager, usually you have like an onboarding process, right? And you have okay, I'm going to kind of break this into a process for onboarding. Well, let's flip that around and break this into a process for onboarding for the person who's being onboarded. And so I think first off, when you join an organization, you just need to learn their systems and their processes because every company is going to be different, right? I mean, and this works for anyone joining any new company at any stage, but especially those who can't lean on prior experience, just diving in and being a sponge on anything and everything about their systems, their software they use, the processes, like if they're in new product development, like they're going to have a phase gate process or something similar that you just need to dive into and learn. And they'll have a ton of SOPs and documentation and you just ask for it. Like, hey, I need to learn how to operate here. Just give me the documentation. Let me read it and just go ahead first.
Yeah. I got to start.
All right, let's do it. Stories are good.
So, true story. Someone's hired, comes in, does not use the software that we're using. Focuses on becoming a buddy team member that can hang with the group right away instead of, or like a cheerleader of the company even. I would go so far as to say that. Instead of just showing up, learning exactly what needs to be done, producing right away within the systems that are already in place to be effective immediately. And so that's a good example of what not to do. So don't, I won't go too far into the story, but don't show up on your first day, immediately order company swag without the approval of HR that nobody has any clue that you're doing. Show up the next day with all of that swag on. And then when your manager says you need to be using this certain software for these processes, it's just the way it is right now. And if you don't, you break all our systems and everyone in the chain gets pissed off. I know the software you like to use is better. but we can't transition immediately. That's something you'll learn as you grow into a company. There are constraints. You have to
Mm-hmm.
follow certain things, which by the way, I had a big problem with. So this is why I know that it's a big problem to just run yourself against the wall with this type of stuff. Um, so don't do
Yeah.
that. Do the opposite of that. Because that person was let go a month later because they couldn't recover from that or pivot. But also, it was an explosion. We hire somebody and they come in and just wreck
Mm-hmm.
stuff. The processes were broken. We should change this. We should change that. I know how to do it better this
Yeah.
way. And then whatever the weird swag outfitting was, that was kind of weird. Was just kind of the cherry on top. Really, it was like just wouldn't follow the processes. Always had a better answer. Always wanted to do it differently. So that's a very good example
Yeah.
of what not to do. So I think that's what you're talking about. Get in there, learn the systems,
Yeah. Because
perfect those systems, get really good at them,
mm-hmm.
and then you'll have the cred, and that's years. And then you'll have the cred and the sway
Yeah.
to move stuff into a different.
Yeah.
system.
All right. And not only that, but just because it's a different system doesn't necessarily mean it's terrible. It could seem terrible to you when you first start learning it. But as you dive in and learn the nuances of whatever system that this company is working with, you might start finding advantages that really showcase why they're using that system. And on the flip side, the best person to fix a broken system is someone who has mastered it. You're not going to go in and realize, oh, this sucks. Oh, I'm just going to go fix it. It's like, well, are you really going to be able to fix something that you have no clue about? So regardless of what your opinion of this system is, you should just learn it well and embrace it before you try changing anything.
Yeah, and this is not a matter of opinion or this is what we feel. This is a matter of fact. This is the best way to approach a new job. End of story.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's not because if you do it, you'll get along with people, or if you do it, you can leverage this, or no. It's just the best way to do it. It is the factual best way to proceed in your first 2 months.
And I mean, I would for the first 30 days, right? You really just need to learn all of the nuances of the processes and systems, because in conversation, people will be like, hey, I need you to do this. And you'll be like, I don't know how to do that, right? Like if you know all the systems right away, then you can be like, yeah, I can do that. Now I might not be efficient at it, but I know how to do that. I know what questions to ask, etc. So you can ask better questions.
Yeah.
So, all right. So the next 30 days, right? So your second month in, it's more about learning the nuances of your role and the expectations that everyone has of you and of your role, right? So becoming undeniably proficient at those expectations. And that's just learning how to ask really good questions of your peers and like, hey, how do you do this? What are some additional resources that you learned, this technology or this manufacturing process or whatever it is?
Hey, my fellow impactful engineers, if there's one thing that you could do to help out this community, is to keep listening to the podcast, but also if you found value in it, to share it with one person, give us a 5-star review, or even leave a text review. It'll only take a few seconds of your time. Find that person that you think could enjoy some of this or learn from it, and pass on the good word. Now back to the show. Yeah, so you're talking about kind of knowing your place?
It's really like learning the skills like of the job itself, right? So the first part of it, right, that we talked about already is learning like the systems of the organization. Now you got to learn your role. You really can't be effective in your role if you don't know the systems like that. That's baseline. And so after that, you need to learn the actual skill sets of being whatever it is. Like if I graduate as a mechanical engineer and I go into whatever company, like one company might be a product development thing in plastics. Another company might be something in HVAC and et cetera, right? Like there's different subsets of skills. Like, yes, you learn the basics in school, but there's a bunch of nuances of being that type of engineer that you will not learn until you get that first job. And so you have to embrace that role and learn it to be very effective, obviously, right? So I think but you have to learn your systems first because you can't operate in the company if you just don't know those base systems. So that's kind of the progression I'm looking at.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. The learning of the systems, well, kind of like what we talked about, was you'd come in and just blow up the whole process. Even if you knew exactly what the company did and when you showed up, you still wouldn't know how they function and how they do it. Yeah. And as a new grad, just like you said, you won't know. As soon as you come in, you won't really know. Even if you had like a couple of
internships or whatever,
internships, you've done a co-op or two, you've touched the very surface, right? So while you'll gain an edge if you do that, still recommended to just learn the processes first. And you'll be given assignments and you'll do tasks, but really learn how you fit within the system and what order of things, right? Who owns what, which steps in what direction you should take before you start. Like, you're not going to design a whole building, before you figure out, all right, what are the processes? And that's exactly what the first story I had. That's exactly, the thing that stopped this person from success was that they kind of had an idea of what we did already, and we're just doing it the way that they wanted to do it, and it was wrecking the systems.
Exactly.
So I agree, systems first, and then as a new grad, role comes really close after that. Yep. Okay, I got you. I'm up to speed. I like that. Yeah, I like your progression here.
So if you were to go into so I'm putting you on the spot here. If you would switch your type of career and you're like, hey, I need to go into learning PCB design, right? Because I know that's something that you just don't do as an electrical engineer, right? That's not your area of expertise. Exactly. So if you were to get a job as to designing PCBAs, how would you approach learning how to be that kind of engineer, just in general, and like obviously not the technicals?
Yeah. Well, if I had to be an employee again and show up at a company and start working for them, it would definitely be learn the processes like that we talked about first. But if I'm going to learn the role, I have a bigger perspective kind of look now. And I would first see, like, in the realm of designing these printed circuit board applications, like, where does it actually apply today, and how does it actually apply today? And, because it's different than it was 50 years ago, like, for sure. How much time do I need to spend learning the certain aspects of the fundamentals before I can jump into just getting it done? What are the modular parts and pieces nowadays that we just assemble, right? How much does the robot do?
Yeah.
How much does AI do? Yeah. What processes do I fundamentally need to know? And I would probably just have a chat with the most senior guy, and then the most mid-level person, and then maybe someone in between that. And I would interview each of them, and I would say, where do you see young people coming in? What are they missing? People that have been here a long time, what are they failing at? And then people that have been here, like your tenure, if I'm talking to the person that's been there the longest, what is failing in the industry right now? Because those things are going to give me insight into what they think are holes in people's knowledge, and also what they perceive as being needed in the future. So once I've gathered all that information, then I kind of have a path of what should I attack first in skill deficiency, technical skill deficiency, what tools will help me be successful, and gives me a very good high-level look at where a designer of these boards sits in the process and where can I be the most valuable. Because for me, I don't want to just come in and do one piece. I want to know where I fit and how do I make the company a bunch of money. That's what I want to know. So what can I do to immediately increase the revenue, profit, whatever it is of this company.
Yeah, and I would add, like, how can you make yourself indispensable? Like, how can you find the gaps that everyone else has, and you can fill those gaps and become irreplaceable.
Yeah, because there's a lot of, if I was to immediately switch careers and engineering types, there's so much individualized, highly skilled niche things that you can do in electrical engineering that even if it was about this new job that I had, it doesn't even apply
Mm-hmm.
because people like for in my industry, people can be really good at say lighting design, and they were mentored in a consulting firm that was very heavily geared towards lighting design. Even though they were electrical consulting engineers in general, they just knew a lot about lighting design. So they looked at everything through that. And when a job came through and it has power, lighting, data, security, and all these other things, they would spend an inordinate amount of time on the lighting design. But what I want to know is not how do I become an expert lighting designer and peel all of your knowledge? That could be a waste of time. I want to know how important is it to have that skill of lighting design? And does spending 50% of the budget on the lighting design help us become a more profitable company, serve our clients better, and make more money and keep growing?
Yeah.
So that I don't want to be, because as a newbie I would be, everybody has more experience than I do. So I'm going to be in awe of everyone. Oh my God, you're so good at that. You're so good at this.
Yeah, I remember those days.
I want to learn that then. But you want to know, okay, where should I spend my time?
Yeah. And if you find something that is of high value to the customer, to the company, etc., and it aligns with something that you're really passionate about, I mean, you just hit the golden ticket.
Yeah, and if it doesn't, if it aligns with what you're passionate about, but nobody sees it as a benefit,
yeah,
you might have a problem too.
And it doesn't mean that technical skill is irrelevant holistically. It could just be for that particular company.
Yeah, and you won't know what you really love to do until you do it for a
Absolutely.
long time. But as far as like your career goes, but back to second month, figuring out how to get better at your role, that would be my process of laying out my battle plan.
Yeah.
Then there's going to be people that will expect things from you. So like you were saying before, there's expectations of your role. So learn those and hit those, but use your battle plan so that you can kind of steer yourself in the right direction. But just to be honest, there will be just a ton of expectations that you need to meet default baseline. So get comfortable in your role, figure out your role, and then do your role really well, and make sure you're hitting all of those things that they expect of you. Yeah, that's baseline.
And you don't have to just ask your manager, like, oh, what does it take to succeed here, kind of thing. Find the people that have moved up quickly and just ask them how they did it. I mean, just be blunt, right? Like, hey, how did you get promoted within 1 year out of school? And they'll be like, oh, dude, I just focused on, executing over here. And, everyone loved what I did there. And that was the ticket that got me there. And then you can say, okay, is that something that I think I can duplicate, right? And then charge in.
Yeah, because time's ticking.
Yeah, absolutely.
Time is passing always. It never stops. And so just maximizing that time is really important. And that's one good way to do it is ask people how they did it, purely in a sense of, I understand that, I'm not expecting a promotion in a year. I'm not expecting anything. I just want to know the roadmap that you took. And you totally could have been like at the right place at the right time, whatever it is. But I want to kind of collect all this data so that I can look at it and go, all right, here's the few things I'm going to really focus on. Maybe I steer later, but I've got my baseline.
Yeah, and the other interesting thing is you can ask multiple people. You might hear a lot of different answers, but you'll start zeroing in. Okay, what is the thing that most people did to get there? You'll see what is related between various career paths, and maybe one person thinks their technical design execution was what got them that promotion, but they're also really good at communicating. And then this other person was like, oh, the being really good at analysis got me my promotion, but I'm also really good at communicating. Okay, well, what do you think is really the thing that got him that promotion? Maybe it's the communication. So, just as an example, right? So it's not always going to be what they say, but that's why it's important to get multiple sources of information and just essentially interview, but without, oh, hey, can I interview you for 30 minutes?
Yeah. Yeah, and I know we've kind of gotten into the weeds here a little bit, but I want to hammer on the fact that when you're new and in your first year, just produce an insane amount.
Oh yeah.
Just because this is just gonna, I mean, put it this way in perspective. Somebody that is a year ahead of you, it's not a linear year. It's not a linear, time lapse. It's how hard did they work? Who did they talk to? Are they good? How intelligent are they? How fast do they learn? There's so much about this person that's a year ahead of you that you have no idea. Mm-hmm. So if you just spend a year working without any direction, who knows if you're going to be in the same spot that they are? A year passing doesn't guarantee you'll be in the same place.
It's about the volume that you put in.
Aspect. So yeah, I recommend that you come in and you produce as much as possible. As much as all this other stuff is so important, asking these questions, getting your battle plan together. What's really the most important is that you just do a shit ton of work, and you do it well, and you do it on time or faster, and you take the extra effort, you take the extra hours, you gain the skills. I know I've said this a million times, but you spend the time outside of work, you research, you get the big picture on things, you ask questions over and over and over again so that you can continue to gain context and increase your agency and
urgency.
Have that urgency, fill that bank of knowledge so that you get things faster. It just clicks faster, but it's not because you're someone that's super intelligent that was born with this ability to learn things super fast. It's because you put in so much fucking work and reps that there's no way you couldn't pick up things faster and gain momentum. So number one, do a ton of shit, learn a ton of things, do a ton of work, and fail spectacularly quickly while you're covered by everybody else. Because when you're brand new, no one expects you to know anything. They expect you to fail. And they will never, they'll never let you be the single source, the single path from doing something to delivery to the client. It won't happen. So now's your time to just go. Break through walls, dust off, do it again. And then you're going to be just trust me. When you get to the place where now you're the one is the last screen before it goes out, you're going to know so many of the pitfalls because you've done them all yourself
already.
Right.
And it's funny because you essentially just went right into the my third point, right? The last 30 days, and then essentially and beyond, and that's just demonstrate that you can exceed those expectations. So just put in a ton of work, right? And we've you kind of touched on this already, and we've touched on it many times before, but more experienced people have just that experience. They have experience, they have skills because they've stacked skills over the lifetime of their career. You will not be able to be as efficient as them, so your output will never be the same as them if you work the same amount of hours. So you have to.
You don't have the leverage they do.
You just do not have the leverage. So you have to put in a ton more hours into the work to make up that skills gap. But here's the beautiful thing. The more hours that you put in, the faster you gain those skills. And
that's right.
So the more hours up front and more skills you start building, reduces the amount of time you have to put in when you start having other things that outside of work, like family and other obligations or whatever.
Because you'll never be less busy.
Exactly. As soon as you graduate, you are like so wide open in available time. Trust us. Whether you have kids or not, the kids are besides the point. Just other obligations in life stack
Something
up.
Will always,
right?
Yeah.
So I don't want people to be like, well, I don't plan to have kids, so I'll always have time. Well,
Sure, but you'll always fill it with something else. Trust me. and that it's just the most common conversation I had through the years
Yeah.
with younger engineers is, and I had all the same questions too. When I first started, I wanted to know pretty well immediately, how do I move up in this company and when can I get paid more? Because you acclimate really fast to the pay that you get. You get pay, either you're not happy about it when you start because you just couldn't compete, you couldn't land a job somewhere that paid the most so you could feel good about it, which I think is horseshit anyway. Just go get a job. But you know, so we're emotional beings, and it's like we're not happy with what is now. We want the later, and then when we get to the later, it's like we acclimate to that. We want the next thing, and so the most common conversation was always like, "How do I move up? How do I make more money? I'm looking for that promotion." Blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the fastest way to get there is not to play any sort of game.
Yeah.
The fastest way to get there is to do a shit ton of work and just grind. And then yes, you'll need to start learning if you want to stay in the career engineer path. You will have to start learning how to get along with people and lead and communicate.
Those are other episodes.
And do all this other complicated shit and play the politics game, which I never played well at all. I always clashed. I said, fuck that, and fuck you, and I don't, in my own way. And I never broke through that. I'll just be honest. I just couldn't do it. I'm just too, I don't know, bullheaded, I guess.
Yeah.
But you will have to learn that. You want the director seat, or do you not want do you want to stay at engineering manager forever? Or do you want to get into the higher C-suite?
Yeah, you must learn it.
You'll have to start learning that stuff. But none of that applies to somebody that just walked through the door. Not for a long time. And if you try to skip this step and go straight to playing the game and like being buddies and doing all the stuff that people do to position themselves in a company, you'll quickly, if let's say you're really good at that. You come in, you're one of those people that can talk their way into anything. You always say the right words. You know how to play the people game. You read Dale Carnegie's book over and over and memorized it. And now you know how to make friends and influence people like a fucking pro, but you have no skills. You have no technical skill to do anything.
Yeah, you know how long you last.
Then you're going to move right up into a position where you're overpaid, don't drive revenue, you suck. Everybody sees you now because you got jumped up, and now they all know that you have no skills, and then you're out.
I've seen it before.
And by the way, you can't just go back down. You can't just become a newbie again. You're done at that company.
Yeah.
And then it's going to be very hard.
And then it becomes hard to be hired.
How the ecosystem works. And then it's hard to be hired because you don't have the base skill. So I'm just telling you, grind and learn skills.
Yeah. Work-life balance does not exist when you first start. Just work. Volume.
Just work. Even if you're all about work-life balance, just take that 8 hours that you're constraining yourself to with your hour lunch break and work your ass off within those hours.
Yeah.
And if you just can't get yourself to do any sort of fringe learning or work, that's okay. But just make sure that you know that there are other people that are willing to do that and that they're going to pass you.
Yeah, very quickly.
That's one. Mm-hmm. But if you want the work-life balance, then just don't care about those people. But just don't expect to get what they get.
Yeah.
Just work really hard within the 8, and that's commendable. Like you should be, be very proud of what you're doing and work those hours really hard and learn and gain skills. Don't play any sort of game. You're going to do just fine.
Yeah.
You don't have to be the outside hours working person or any of this extra effort stuff, but just know that that the world we live in is competition. Mm-hmm. So there are people that are willing to do that.
Yeah. And what we're here to help teach the listeners is what it takes to be exceptional, right? What is required to go beyond the status quo or the average. And that's why we're saying to do that, you must put in that extra effort and must just relentlessly pursue skill stacking and reps and just work up front. So that way you can be ahead of the curve. So we got to wrap this up. I just want to recap real quick. First 90 days, you just got your first job. First 30 days, learn the systems and processes. Next 30 days, learn your role and the expectations of your role and how to be a good engineer in that company, in that role. And then from then on, demonstrate that you can exceed those expectations, and you will win.